Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette. So glad you're with us today to Stay Curious. June 27th, 2025, and the first week of summer is under our belt. So is another week of Stay Curious with you, my family and friends out there that enjoy space history, the occasional interview with an astronaut, and the more than occasional interview with space workers or leaders of the past and present. And we're getting some great interviews lined up for you in July as we're going to the home stretch here of June. And today we're going to talk about Asteroid Day being observed in Luxembourg. What's Asteroid Day all about? Why a whole week of it? This is the 10th anniversary of it. And our good friend Alex Carl is there, Marty, attending some of the sessions in Luxembourg. And that's my way of saying hi to my buddy Marty Winkle, who has been with me on almost all of the 1,300 some episodes we've done in 5 years. We've each missed a handful, but he's even been such a good soldier, he has done them remotely, ran the board for me to get the show on the road here. So we're happy that you all enjoy it. Please tell your friends to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel as we are inching up to making, boy, Marty, about $35 a month now. So how are you doing, my friend? And
I'm doing just great. How are
good,
you?
good. We got a couple slides we're going to show what you were doing today, but we want to remind everybody that our charity auction number 38 is this Saturday, where the gavel lands at noon. You can hit that QR code or go to our website, hit the auction button, and within a minute you'll be registered to put your bid in for over 350 lots, from an x-ray of Neil Armstrong's shoes that went to the moon to a shuttle tile or a piece of a shuttle tile in lucite, and even Buzz Aldrin's autograph there on the classic image that will be shown hundreds of years from now. Buzz on the moon taken by Neil Armstrong. We call that the visor shot in the business there, because the lunar module and Neil are perfectly seen in the visor. That's the only picture they took that looked like that. Anyway, probably $400 to $500, maybe even more that could go for. And that's what's the fun to watch it. I'm not going to buy that, but I'm curious to how much that'll go for. So you get online, you can watch it on any of your devices, and it's quite an education, isn't it, Marty? You'll be watching, I'll be watching, and it's a lot of fun. And some winners and losers. Some things go for a lot more than Chuck Jeffrey, our auctioneer and analyst, predicts, and some of them go for a lot less than maybe they deserve. But every lot is at least $100. They're worth that. You have a 20% surcharge that is charity money that goes to the museum directly. And if we own the item, we get all 120% of the profits. Otherwise, consigners get a healthy percentage that Chuck negotiates. So hope to see you there Saturday at noon at our auction online only. Click the QR code or go to our website and figure out how to download it. Asteroid Day is June 30th, celebrated universally as a United Nations Day event, okay? And that's what our subject today is going to be all about. Not if, but when a catastrophic asteroid threatens Earth. Can we stop it? And we'll join the conversation, and or hop a plane and get to Luxembourg. You can still get in on some good talks tomorrow and Sunday up there, like our good friend Alex Carl's doing today. But Marty, you sent me this picture here. Beans are go. You're all dressed up in nice slacks today, which is really dressing up for me here in Florida because it's so hot. We're always wearing shorts. But Marty, what was going on? Tell everybody that doesn't know where this is and what that means to the shuttle program.
Well, that's in the LCC lobby. That was initially, it's on the fourth floor of the LCC.
LCC is an acronym for
Launch Control Complex. And that was the beams that was served. And I think, yeah, I'm drawing a blank on the guy's name, the engineer who started bringing them in.
Norm Carlson.
Yeah, Norm Carlson.
That's Norm Carlson's rig.
And then it grew over during the shuttle program. It just grew to, I don't know how many things of beans they used to bring out there would be downstairs in the main floor or in the lobby of the LCC. And anybody who's supporting the launches or working for NASA or in this case, United Space Alliance, free beans.
Well, what that's lacking is on loan from the American Space Museum in the case there, because it is. The Carlson family gave it to us, and then the NASA KSC approached us about a couple years ago, but it looks nice. And then the beans got out of hand. That was the good luck charm to launch STS-1 finally. And then the STS-2, there was 3 or 4 pots of beans, right, Marty? And I'm told by some people there, by STS-8 or 9, the whole LCC smelled like beans. So how'd they solve that one, Marty?
I don't think they solved it. I think just put more.
Mike Leinbach said a little memo went out, said the kitchen will now make all the beans. You don't have to bring them anymore. All right. So navy beans, pinto beans, all kinds of beans, beans, beans. As I got my cool mug here, getting charged to get through today with a cup of coffee, the heat shows Orion and a Leo on there as it dissipates there. And space worker Barry Smith, docent, gave me that, Marty. Well, you also saw another picture out there that you sent me. What's this one all about?
Those are some of the people that are up there on the head console, if you will. That's where the launch directors are, the NASA and the contractor. All the way on the left in the second row there, that's Mike Leinbach.
I see Mike on the far left and Charlie Blackwell Thompson next to him, who he passed the hat to as launch director. Tim is there in the middle. I forget Tim's last name. Run into him a lot of places in there. I was wondering if that was you waving way in the back in there somewhere, Marty.
No, this
in
is
the
the
peanut
last mission.
gallery.
This is STS 135, so I was not in the flying room anymore, definitely at that point. And that woman to the right, that's Roberta Warwick, and she's the first woman launch director.
Wow.
Yeah.
Actually, test conductor.
I meant test conductor.
Yeah.
And she just passed away just about 2-3 weeks ago.
Nice. And she passed away. We were just talking about her with other test conductor, Eric Baker. Marty, thank you for bringing these in. He's privileged from time to time to be called out to give a docent tour. You were touring some foreign people today, or people like people from Michigan, those kind of foreigners, or overseas foreigners?
No, they're local foreigners. They're teachers from around the country. Some from Florida, some from Brevard County, but some from Oklahoma. I forget all the states they were from.
Well, good for you, Marty, and I know that you enjoy that sort of thing. We want to say hello to RG Jubilee and Elena and Tommy Usiak, Carlton Bailey watching today, Bennett Scarborough. Good afternoon from the coast of Carolina. And I'm certainly no stranger to some of those haunts there, like Charleston and other ones there. I'm thinking where everybody goes, the main place. I'm blanking out there. But thank you all. We consider this a social hour, some of you, and we appreciate that, you joining us all here. So we're going to talk about, a bad day on Earth would be seeing this sucker head for anywhere on Earth. This would annihilate life on Earth. Like 65 million years ago, life was changed, not completely annihilated, but we'll talk about that, why that happened, and why June 10th is chosen for Asteroid Day. A very logical and even another scary connection there. So stay tuned and get educated a little bit about the threat, the real threat of potentially hazardous astronauts hitting the Earth and what we're doing about it. Can we combat them? Are we able to defend our own planet? So stay curious here. As I go to the next slide, once in a while you'll see a headline in the news that might say, asteroid has 1% chance of hitting Earth. I'm sure you sent me that, Marty. Not sure how long ago. Sometimes you'll see asteroid passing Earth between the moon and Earth. That's a close encounter for sure. and or you might see other, um, you know, another asteroid 2 times, 3 times the distance from the Earth. But we're going to show you what all that means and what are the chances, and even a 1% chance of hitting the Earth. You all play the lottery and know your chances to become a millionaire with the lottery? We'll see there. Marty's going to move that away from me there if that's distracting you. Thank you, my friend. You just picked that up.
You don't need it.
I know I don't need it. Just pick that whole thing up. So that is my orrery there that Marty's fixing up there. My planet globes that I had using for another demonstration today. I wore my planet shirt to be on channel 35 TV here in Orlando. And those of you local, I've been asked to be in the studios of channel 35 Fox channel here in Orlando Monday morning. Supposed to go live at 9:15. So that's about the only thing I'll get up early for, Marty, is if I have to do something for the museum on camera or something like that. So looking forward to that, because I enjoy their news programming. Anyway, so you might see a headline news like that of what's happening, and believe you me, it is serious business. The United Nations declared International Asteroid Day to be June 30th. And I'll keep you on the edge of your seats there as to why, but it's a connection with a threat that we did miss on June 30th when an asteroid or comet exploded over Siberia. And so that's the tease. But yes, we have had just recently a small boulder, if you want to call it. Asteroids are mostly small boulders, maybe the remains of leftover planet that got shattered by impacts. But it's a real thing, International Asteroid Day, and it's being celebrated in Luxembourg. All 10 years it's been done there. This is the 10th anniversary in Circle City. And you can go to the website, and there is supposed to be some live downloads of some of the speaking there. They will have talks about planetary defending, about the odds of doing things. There'll be talks about what are asteroids and comets made up of, because we have to know what they're made of so we can divert their orbit or blow them up before they blow us up. And this is all very real, heady stuff in the quarter of the way through the 21st century. And I know you've all thinking maybe good old Bruce in the Armageddon movie, saving the Earth there, Bruce Willis. No, that ain't ever going to happen like that. But we do think we've got a way to figure out to defer an asteroid that could hit the Earth if we know far enough ahead of time. Asteroid Day is attended by people all over the world, but you'll be amazed at who helped found this. I think you'll be amazed, at least if you like rock and roll. In the group Queen, rock guitarist Brian May is a doctor of planetary astronomy, and he helped found Asteroid Day. Was his doctorate thesis on diverting asteroids from hitting the Earth. He's very serious about this. He's even written a couple songs for the conference about kind of asteroid related. But yes, the guy that We Will Rock You and Bohemian Rhapsody and all that good stuff of the group Queen, he is the guitarist and songwriter for a lot of that stuff. And in his 70s, had a little stroke not too long ago, but recovering well. But so he might be a presenter there, but certainly people are looking forward to hearing him talk about it. And the other famous celebrity that's part of Asteroid Day is Apollo 9 astronaut Rusty Schweickart. And we met Rusty, Marty, as you well know, a year ago, November. He was here with Jack Lausma doing autographs for Skylab. Schweickart was a backup on Skylab, and Lausma was on the second crewed flight of Skylab. But he's Rusty. Don't talk to me about Apollo 9 Schweickart, okay? He would much rather talk about planetary defense and the B612 Society, named after a close encounter with asteroid named that. And once we started talking about that stuff, his eyes lit up, and he's going to be 90 years old, Marty, in October, and he's still out there spreading the love for that. So Asteroid, and somebody who's also aware of Asteroid Day, and this is Mark Kelly, senator from Arizona. And just yesterday or 2 days ago, U.S. Senators Mark Kelly, Democrat from Arizona, and John Conran, a Republican from Texas, introduced a bipartisan resolution recognizing June 30th as the National Asteroid Day. With this resolution, the senators hope to elevate public understanding of asteroids, planetary defense, and space science as the world celebrates the 10th anniversary of Asteroid Day. And Kelly says, quote, "I'm excited to introduce a resolution recognizing Asteroid Day in the United States Senate for the very first time." Nice political speech there, Mr. Kelly. Of course, he flew to space 4 times, I believe. His identical twin brother, Scott, spent 11 months on the space station. He was the mission specialist. This one was the pilot and commander of Space Shuttle. He's got the STS-134 logo on there, as he was the commander of the last mission of Endeavour to the International Space Station. So good for you. You got my memo there, Mark Kelly, that our country needs to buff up the awareness here of what could be a tragedy looming at any time. And I'll give you some statistics here in a minute. Asteroid Day was launched in 2015 and officially recognized by the United Nations in 2016. All right. They spurred a declaration in 2014, signed by hundreds of astronauts, scientists, public figures, including Kelly, urging governments to accelerate discovery efforts for near-Earth asteroids whose orbit lie the Earth. And we will, again, elaborate more on that. Got to show you some what the heck we're talking about. Here's a whole slew of asteroids and a few comets. What's the difference between an asteroid and a comet? Well, we really don't know. Usually the size. Comets seem to have more water ice on them. That's why they get a tail, okay, as the sun's energy literally melts off a tail of debris and a tail of gas. Comets usually have 2 tails. But all of these objects, these are photographs from spacecraft by America, the European Space Agency, Japan, Russia, other countries have found over the last 30 years to go close and personal with asteroids and comets. And right here is Halley's Comet. And it's only 10 miles across and luckily 5 miles wide. Right, Marty? The big one is called Lucia, and it is 60 miles by 50 miles. It's huge right there. The one over here on the far right with the big Star Wars-like crater on it down at the bottom. Yeah, you can go right there, Marty. That one is called Galileo. All right. That was visited. But go up at the top 2 in the middle up there. That one is called Bennu, and the other one is Ryuga. And believe it or not, we have not only hit those tiny marks, okay, they're only half a mile across. One is about half a mile across. The other one is less than a half mile across. We've not only sent spacecraft there, we have landed on both of those spacecraft, as tiny as they are. In Bennu, the one Marty's pointing out, we brought back some samples of it, some of the rocks and dust from it. So just incredible what we can do with our unmanned spacecraft to go to worlds like these and find out. Now, where's the one that we diverted we're going to talk about? There's one called Anne Frank. Yeah, that one over there, Marty's called Gaspra. And one of the Voyager spacecraft went by Gaspra and saw that it had that one is about 5 miles by 5 miles. It's a little elongated. And it went by Gaspra and saw a tiny moonlet orbiting it. Okay. So they called it Ida, Gaspra and Ida. All right. And it was only about a football field across. So look how tiny, though, the most famous comet in the world there, 8 miles across, taken by the European Space Agency's Vega 2 spacecraft there. So Japan brought us pictures. Now go way over here to this one. That one in the middle. That one, well, you can point to that one. That's Eros. We're going to see a close-up of Eros, okay, after the erotic god. That is 200 miles. No, that's 15 miles by 15 miles, all right? And you're going to see a close-up of it. You're going to believe what that looks like. And Arakoth there, up above it, looks like two snowballs fused together. And that's exactly what it is. Although the snowballs are about 8 miles by 7 miles wide, all right? And this was seen by the New Horizons spacecraft after it left Pluto 2 billion miles from Earth. Think about that, all right? And Matilda's over here to the right where you got your arrow on there. It's got a big old crater like the Death Star in Star Wars' antenna on there. That one is 30 by 20 miles, all right? So all of these you can enjoy looking up on Jet Propulsion Lab page, comets, and so forth. But now we've set that if one of these came close to us, and the one we're going to talk about, Marty, is, don't think it's shown on here, but we'll see its dimensions here in just a minute. Will astound you. It's very small, like Bennu and Ryuga. There's a website called Space Weather. It's my home page. I love it. A lot of pictures of what the sun activity looks like, planets, aurora, a lot of pretty landscapes of celestial things on Space Weather. And they have a page there that I pulled off today, June 27th, okay, near-Earth asteroids. And let's look at a near-Earth, and this is today's date, the 27th. There is an object that they just discovered, because that's what the 2025 means, 15 moon diameters, lunar diameters away. Now, that's pretty far. The moon is 250,000 miles away, so 4 moon distances, not diameters, 4 moon distances is 1 million miles. Divide that by 4. That's about 4 million miles away from us. Marty, you got a question?
Here we have a question from RJ Jubilee. What's the one that looks like a big sweet potato?
Well, we're not sure what you mean there, and they all look like sweet potatoes to me. They all look like potatoes and sweet potatoes, but
I think he's talking about. I think this one.
Yes, that one's called Lucia. Lutetia. That's Lutetia. That is over 60 by 50 miles across, okay? And that's huge. The smaller ones are the ones that we got to be careful of there. And hi to Chris Callie there. Marty, Jackie Murakami, his alias in there, his beautiful wife. And Doug Forrest is there, and Tom Celentano, and little brother Mark joined us there. So, yeah, I'm not going to take too many questions because I'm going to answer your questions, okay, as you're asking them. This is what we're here for, is to educate you on things like this. And towards the end, if I haven't answered your question, then chime in there. But they all look like potatoes to me in there. Sweet potatoes, red potatoes, golden potatoes, all right? This is their lumpy masses of the early solar system, or like we think the one in the middle there is, or they are remnants of a planet that got disintegrated somehow, and the asteroid belt is full of these. All right, let's get back to what I'm talking about to scare you, that there's 2,349 potentially hazardous asteroids. This one here, called 2025 MS1, and this is a code for the telescopes or system that found this, On July 24th, Marty, it went inside the orbit of the moon. Lunar distance was 0.8, 8/10 of the lunar distance. It was about 200,000 miles from the surface of the Earth. All right. Now, how big was it? That's the far corner. In meters, it was 4 meters across. All right. Times 3 feet per meter, approximately. Shave a little off. That's 10 feet wide. So we could see something 10 feet wide, but we probably discovered it just a few days before it came inside the moon's orbit. And as you see, one's coming up. There's a close one. 2 lunar diameters, almost 3 lunar diameters. That's 750,000 miles away from the Earth's surface. Very close in astronomical terms. 17 meters in diameter. All right, times 3 feet, basically. 20 would be 60 feet. So this thing's about 50 feet across. All right, pretty big. And if something hit us like that, you would know about it all over the world. So this is just the top 30 of a list they have there, of potentially hazardous asteroids. So there are careers being forged to find these potentially hazardous asteroids. So I am a planetary defender, all right? And Rusty Schweikert gave me this because he had a bunch of buttons. And what's this all about? Well, in 2022, just 3 years ago, NASA's double asteroid redirect test called DART successfully altered the orbit of a small satellite asteroid around a larger asteroid, the first in planetary defense. Now, we didn't alter the orbit of one of these big boys. I showed you at the beginning, Marty had those 2 tiny ones at the top. Let's just go back to that, since there it is. Those 2 at the very top. That's what we're going to... That is what the size of this asteroid was. We could barely see him on that chart. And the asteroid was called Dimorphos. That we altered, but its parent was called Didymus. All right. Didymus, look at that. It looks like a dreidel, a little Jewish toy spinning top there. Okay. Well, DART had a payload that intercepted and impacted Dimorphos, okay? And Dimorphos, then we waited till Dimorphos came on the other side of Didymus in the orbit to see if the orbit had been altered, and it was. We had slowed it down by about 20 minutes and put it on a different course orbit. As you can see, the original orbit is the white, and the altered orbit is the blue. All right. So we did it. And the Lucia cube was the scout spacecraft that took the pictures of this about to happen. So there's Didymus, and Dimorphos is in the distance. These are so tiny. It was so incredible that we could do this. Now, are they very, very solid? We didn't know that. They looked like a rock solid thing. Didymus looks a little more amorphous, like it could be a jumble of rocks, like we're going to see a crater here in a minute. Oh, that's my green screen there. The green screen, you're not going to believe what it is when I tell you. But this is the size of Dimorphos that we moved. The small moon there in the back as we're passing. Dimorphos would hover over the Roman Colosseum in this artwork that I'm sharing with some artists there that made this, okay? So we hit it and moved it to a different orbit. And there's the impact from the Scout spacecraft, taking a picture of this tremendous impact there. And what it was is they had a payload of a couple tons that actually was just like a big slug that impacted it, and they had debris spewing off of it. There's the impact happening there. In fact, this was monitored on the Hubble telescope, other Earth orbiting telescopes, and telescopes around the world to prove that it worked. We did it. We hit something so tiny and so far away. So if it was closer, and this was in the asteroid belt, so this was about 40 million, well, let's see, more like about 100 to 200 million miles away, even further than that. Way past between Mars and Jupiter. All right. So we proved that this technology worked 3 years ago. And sadly, nobody's doing anything with that technology. There's nothing on the drawing board to create more double asteroid redirect tests, okay, or asteroid redirect tests to prove how we could do a bigger object, and we need to. Again, here's Earth-based observations of this. It actually created a tail of debris that the solar winds of the sun blew out like a comet. All right, quite spectacular mission, this DART mission, and Rusty Schweikert talks a lot about it because we learned how to be a planetary defender, okay, with this little spacecraft here. So now we know it can be done, all right. But Inter-Asteroid Day, and there's 2 years ago that Wallops Island had a big celebration of it. We know it can be done. People who support and have written and signed a petition, okay, over 1,600 people. No, I'm looking at something wrong here. The 100X Declaration. Hundreds of scientists and astronauts and public figures, including these famous people, have signed this document urging governments to accelerate discovery efforts for near-Earth asteroids whose orbits lie near Earth. I see Whoopi Goldberg there. I see Austin Kutcher, a couple of astronauts, including Steve Smith, Marty. You just saw Steve out at Space Center, I think. Jack Black, the actor there. The actress on Big Bang Theory there, Bilek, she's there. Chris Hadfield, other influencers. I've got, there's Brian May in the lower left-hand corner there. Astronaut Ron Guerin, he's up there at the top. Yeah, I don't know who the other people are on the upper right, but there's Rusty Schweikert and other influencers of this stuff. So you can go to their page and sign this, okay? Asteroid Day Festival. So why did they choose the date? But let's get to some of the numbers here. Let's scare you a little bit further, Marty. This scale here is the hazard by numbers. Very easy. The size of the asteroid and how many of them are lurking out there, and how many of them have we detected at that size, okay? So going to big, the big ones lurking out there, we see them all. That's what the 100% is at the bottom, far right on this. 10,000 meters, that's 6 miles across. But we expect 4 of those could possibly hit the Earth every 100 million years. Now we know that one hit the Earth 65 million years ago, and that is the one that took down the dinosaurs, and we're pretty well sure it hit near the Yucatan Peninsula in the Gulf of Mexico. So 100, but there's at least 4 a year, every 100 million years, that size, that come close enough to Earth that maybe they could hit us. All right, so we're maybe due for one. If there's 4 a year, that's every 25 million years. Now next, 95% of the ones 2/3 of a mile, that's 100 meters, okay? 3,000 feet, 2/3 of a mile to 2/3 of a mile, a little bigger than that. There's over 900 objects out there. What could that do? Possible collapse of civilization if just something 2/3 of a mile hit the Earth. But we see 95% of those right now. Now, things that are 140 meters, okay, times 3 foot a meter, approximately, Okay, so that's 400 feet. So just envision your average sports stadium, whether it's a soccer pitch, football, baseball, something about that size, like Amorphous or Dimorphos was, that we deterred there. I showed it to you over the Roman Coliseum. Something about that size. We only see 40% of them at the bottom. So 60% of them we don't see right now. How many of them are there? For 20,000 years, about 25,000. So one every 1,000 years, there's going to be something the size of a sports stadium come very close to Earth that could hit us. All right. Now you get to stuff smaller, 150 feet, 50 meters. That you're talking about 7% of them are known. 93% of them, we don't know if they're out there. What could they do? One per 1,000 years is predicted to maybe hit the Earth. Local devastation, regional effects may or may not have an impact crater. And we dodged a bullet at Chelyabinsk in Russia in 2013. A meteor exploded over Chelyabinsk, Russia, injuring over 1,600 people and releasing the energy equivalent to 440,000 tons of TNT. That happened just 12 years ago, and wasn't coming down. It was grazing parallel to the ground, basically. Chelyabinsk in Russia. Look that up, and you'll see millions of damage in just broken windows and alarm systems that went off. So things that are just 30 feet across, we don't even see 0.5% of those. How many of those are there out there? 45 million. And it's a very bright fireball. Strong sonic boom could break windows if close to habitation. So the Chelyabinsk was between the 10-meter and 50-meter variety. So I hope I've scared you that we don't know where some of these small things are. They appear out of the blue, and we can't possibly have enough assistance scientifically with telescopes, radar systems, and so forth to find all these. So, hey there, Mitch Rothman. Good to see you, sir. All right, let's roll into why it is on the 30th day of June. Because, see this area over Russia in Siberia in 1908, something came down and exploded. It was registered in Moscow. Moscow's way over to the left here. All right, seismometers in Moscow. In fact, a fireball was seen over the horizon in China, Mongolia, all right, Kazakhstan there, in Russia, over that horizon. And what we think happened was a comet or a meteorite or meteoroid when it's in space, meteor when it's burning up, and meteorite when it's on the ground. But it didn't create a crater. So the impact when something's going 30,000 miles an hour hitting the Earth is just going to take a couple seconds to go from that thin blue line to the surface. But it is compressing a lot of massive air in front of it and heating it up and then compressing it, and boom, things exploded. And this was not visited for years because it was up in Siberia and people couldn't get to it. Dog sled talking. We're talking 1908. We're not talking about anybody could fly in there with a helicopter. All right. With the Wright brothers in 1903, aviation was just starting. A balloon, out of the question. Photography didn't exist remotely like that to do something. You had to fly the balloon in a big camera. So once they got there, one of the famous scientists that did photograph it couldn't believe all the devastation of entire forests leveled. And yes, they had a pattern. And now scientifically, we have seen this pattern. This is over where the impact area was today. Still, a lot of forests did not come back over 100 years ago, 117 years ago, this impact. Okay, here's what they could think was like ground zero. Okay, some of the trees have grown back in 100 and some years, but they can tell by their characteristics what happened to them. back then. And yes, famously, I mean, it's just mind-boggling to think that even 80 million years ago there were creatures on the earth. 80 million years ago, not 80,000. Mankind, like we know him, has only been around at best maybe 10,000 years. And I'm giving a lot of credit there. The pyramids of Egypt might be 5,000 years old. So, I mean, but these gigantic creatures, large and small, roaming the earth for millions of years, and to be brought to extinction, okay, by an impact of a meteor that was probably no more than 5 to 6 miles across. All right. Now, the meteor crater may have been an object that was one of those football field-sized objects. Why did the dinosaurs, who were on the decline, I read and get my share of History Channel and all those sort of things, always fascinated with it. Now we think that, dinosaurs had feathers and colors, and of course they did. Look at the world around us today and the animal creatures. They're the things that embellish their bodies. We didn't survive, of course, but we're all fascinated in this. So the impact crater threw enough debris up into the air that it created soot that circled the globe and blocked sunlight. And the cooling, blocking the sunlight, made the cooling and vegetation cease to get photosynthesis and have the nutrients of sunlight that they needed. And then the cold weather took care of a lot of other species on the earth, including, the highly vegetative dinosaurs. So that's basically what happened over a period of probably 1,000 years or more. I don't think this was, they're agreeing now it was an overnight thing. Some species, the larger, choked out. Maybe it's a couple hundred years. I could be wrong. Someone's going to say that knows a lot about paleontology, what we're talking about there. And I see a question about petrified forests, and I can't answer that. I'm an astronomer, not a biologist, but petrified forests are wood that has been, preserved to the point where it turns to stone. I don't know how that happens. Calcium gets in it as organic material is exhausted there. So, however, this was a serious thing that happened, and we can trace it through all kinds of scientific ways. But asteroid impacts that have hit the Earth with more than 1 kiloton in the first 13 years of our century is what this map is. And you're going, wait a minute, a kiloton? I don't know how many kilotons the impact was that killed the dinosaurs. I didn't do my research on that, okay? But Chelyabinsk, now I can tell you, 20 kilotons, like I said, injured 1,600 people, mostly with falling glass shards from the town of Chelyabinsk, an urban area, and that was over 20 kilotons, okay? So we had another one in 2002 over Egypt, another one over the Fiji Islands off of Australia there. Okay, we had a big one in 2004. All right, the ones over the ocean aren't, how many do we miss over the ocean? With 2/3 of the Earth or more being ocean, you have to have instruments there and people to see it. In 2012 was a pretty big one. Up in the San Francisco area, it looks like over Nevada maybe, okay, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean in 2013. So every year this happens because there's a lot of space debris out there, and the Earth smacks into 10 tons every day of meteorite material that is soot and dust that doesn't burn up but filters down. And a lot of these iron meteorites end up in Antarctica because the magnetic poles of the Earth suck them in to those. So if you're going to find meteorites, you can sometimes just see them laying on the surface in Antarctica or the Arctic sometimes. And we've even found meteors coming from Mars and the moon. We know that because they can date them. They can get the materials out of them and know that has to be from Mars because of the makeup of it. So amazing, a real threat. But let's look at some asteroids up close. This is the asteroid called Ryuga, one of them tiny little ones that Marty showed on the chart. Would you believe we put a little rover on there that landed and scooted around and gave us this picture of it behind us here for the green screen? Incredible, huh, Marty? There it is again. Oh, that's perfectly matched in there almost. All right, a close-up. It didn't last very long. A very ambitious program there by what country? That was Osiris. I forget what. Ryuga was Hayabusa 2. Okay, was a Japanese that actually had a little rover on there that got caught and then its power went out. This is a one called Bennu, and it looks like a set of dice. All right, if you imagine that in the middle is pointing out at you like a set of dice, and it's sort of a jumbled, loosely bound. The gravity on these things, you couldn't hardly stand on here. Any movement, you could literally jump your toes and would fly off of this. The gravity is so small because it's only less than a half a mile wide. This is the size again of a sports stadium, and yet Osiris-Rex was a spacecraft that was launched here 10 miles from where I'm sitting at Kennedy Space Center, went millions of miles to Bennu and harvested some of it, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. This is Eros, the one I was showing you early on there. It looks like a elongated potato, kind of like a saddle. All right, Eros. We had a spacecraft orbit it, the near Earth asteroid rendezvous. Spent about a year around orbiting this and then went to another asteroid. Notice how the surface is not sharp and jagged on this. It's soft, where it's been beat down somewhat by something. Whereas Ryuga and Bennu here are gravelly. There's nothing soft about them. Okay, all right. So we need to understand why. Here's another close-up view of an asteroid called Iokawa. Iokawa had a lander on it up there in this hip area. Okay, Japanese again landed a lander there. They wanted to put harpoons on it and try to hold it steady, but that didn't work. Instead, the harpoon reaction bounced this spacecraft around a few times. It took some interesting pictures, and then it finally settled in a crevice there. But look at that color picture of something that is no more than Iokawa. Let's see on my chart. This is about 2 miles across at the most. This is another close-up of Bennu. All right, looks like out in Midwest, an avalanche of rock on there. Now this is very cold. What is deceiving here is this is 100 degrees below zero or something like this. There's no atmosphere, and where it is far away, this is a cold, cold place. But we brought back Osiris-Rex, and this is gravel. Go out in your yard, go out in the street. This is about the size. I would hold all this in my hand. This is what was brought back by Osiris-Rex. Outside of the container when they opened it, it sucked in so much, a couple ounces of this, that there it is in the lab, dusted around the capsule that brought it back to Earth. Big deal when this happened a couple years ago. And some of these little rocks are in museums, a couple of museums in America right now. Isn't that amazing that we can get this close to an asteroid and understand what's it made of to help us understand? Asteroids are different mixes. Some are iron, some are rock, some are silicon, a lot of silicon in them. Others a lot of carbon maybe. Just like you go around anywhere and you find clay dirt, you find gravel, we find sand here. All right, our yards aren't really a nice rich dirt. They are sandy loam here in Florida. Up in Michigan and Ohio, you've got, real dirt stuff there. So this is what's laying out there. So Uh, Hope you've all enjoyed a little bit about wanting, and hope you want to be a planetary defender, just like Senator Mark Kelly proposing to the Senate that we have an asteroid day on June 30th when Tunguska was invaded by something that almost killed us all. If that had exploded over Moscow, there would be all kinds of shrines and so forth today after they took them 100 years to rebuild it. I guarantee it there. So, Rusty Schweikert, thank you for being a planetary defender. And Brian May, guitarist for the rock group Queen. These two men helping create an Asteroid Day awareness, which is Monday. And in Luxembourg, they'll having talks and serious discussions of being planetary defenders and awareness worldwide of just not a question of if, but a question of when we're going to get hit by something that will wipe out an entire city. And hope I'm not around to see it. So, Marty, hope that you enjoyed today's program. I know you're looking forward to the auction on Saturday, as I am. An important cash flow for our American Space Museum. Buy something, and if it's not ours in the auction, we'll at least get 20% of that bid to help us reach out to you on a daily basis. So, Marty, anything to take care of over there? Any
Nope.
pressing questions or comments? I don't see any.
Nope, I think we're good, Mark.
Well, thank you all for watching our Stay Curious. Our numbers are definitely going up. It's because you're sharing, liking, and subscribing, and letting people know that very rarely are you going to get content that we're given today, not just by me talking about Asteroid Day, but have you heard anyone else talking about it today? Or go revisit some of our great talks. Terry White hitting almost 300 people on his shuttle thermal protection system talks, and Bob Granath, also a very popular program this month, talking about the Alexei Leonov spacewalk 60 years ago. And we'll be bringing you Nick Thomas at the Kennedy Space Center. We've got others in the queue here that love to come back. Mikey Haddad is working on a payloads program, and Steve Agad will be doing a history of the Apollo-Soyuz test project next month. So all to look forward to on Stay Curious. So until next time, I'm Mark Marquette on behalf of our wonderful nonprofit museum and all of our hardworking employees. I'm thanking you for being part of our museum this way, and I can't wait to see you again to bridge the space between us.